Hey guys, Matthew here, and today I'll bring you a little bit of a different video on what I would consider to be a viable league starting strategy. So this strategy is going to be revolving around basically farming the Vala side areas. So if you aren't aware, Vala side areas can be spawned by putting a fragment in the map device and activating it. This will open a Val site area. You go in there, you're gonna have some little map mods, and you go ahead and clear that. And at the end, you're gonna have a chest, and you're gonna get some rewards. So in this video, I want to show you guys basically share a test that I did running 100 Vala side areas. I don't think there's any difference in which fragment you use, so I would say go ahead and use the cheapest one, which is probably Dusk or Dawn. Noon and Midnight tend to be more expensive, but Dusk and Dawn tend to be the cheapest ones. I believe Dusk is the most common and also the cheapest one, despite the fact that I have more Dawns, which is kind of troll. But anyway, so I ran 100 Vala side areas. It took me roughly 2 hours, but the reality is that my character is not made to run maps at all, or zones in general. I don't have a Silver Flask, which means I'm missing Onslaught, which 20% move speed, and I also am not running a Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, which is 60% movement speed or something. Essentially, I'm moving at about half the speed that I could have been moving at. Therefore, if you were to rerun this test on a character that is actually made to farm maps, or even this same exact character but changing the flask setup for a more movement speed oriented flask setup, you could probably do this in about an hour, maybe an hour, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes or so. So fairly reasonable amount of time. Can be done on a 2-link. You don't need any damage. These zones are level 69, so they're the exact same thing you could expect in the campaign. So if your character is able to survive the campaign, it's going to be able to farm Vala side areas. So let me go ahead and show you guys the results. So as I said, I went ahead and I ran 100 of them. I got back 55 fragments. Now it shows 54 because I just opened this map using one of them. But I got 55 fragments back, which means I basically sustained about half. So every 2 fragments, I was getting 1 back. 5 of them were midnights, and then it was pretty much fairly equal amongst Dusk, Noon, and Dawn. Now, one thing to note here is this is a viable strategy, in my opinion, when it comes to League Start. And the reason for that is because on League Start, the cheaper fragments, such as Dusks and Dawns especially, are going to be about an alchemy each, not even a chaos. And when they're about an alchemy each, and alchemies on the first day of League are like 3 to 4 for a chaos, you're able to buy multiple fragments for even a single chaos, because alchemies, like I said, are so very cheap. And a single midnight is worth about 2 chaos at the start of a league, even 2.5 sometimes, which basically pays for 4 or even 5 full runs by dropping a single one of them. Now, this is just one of the reasons why I think it's a viable strategy. Now, the other reason is that you also drop maps, which is kind of nice. As you can see, I dropped quite a bit of different maps. Those are all tier 3 maps. I don't think you can drop anything over tier 3 in those zones, because it is a level 69 zone, so all these maps are like level 70, 71 or whatever. So tier 3 maps. But I got a decent few of them, which are worth about a chaos each, I want to say, at the start of a league for T3 maps. If people buy them, and I know people do buy them because they want to try to complete their Atlas, and these are not going to be map upgraded maps. They're going to be natural drops, which means people actually need them to be able to progress through their Atlas. So I know they're going to sell for about a chaos each. But the biggest reason why I think this is a viable strategy is because given enough runs, you are going to get lucky and get some 6-links. So within 100 runs, I went ahead. I dropped 1 Divine Orb in an actual Divine, and then I dropped 6 6-links. So I've dropped this one, and then these 4 Divines were from vendoring the other very, very bad ones. So I dropped 6 6-links within 100 runs, which, as I said, you could do in probably a little over an hour. So you're going to be dropping a 6-link every 10 or so minutes if you're being efficient about it. Now, if you think about it, on the first day of a league, a tabula is about an X at the very beginning, and then it goes to like 30-ish chaos, while an exalt around the end of the first day is going to be about 60 chaos, so it's about half an exalt for a tabula. So if you have a 6-link that drops with anything in terms of stats that is better than a tabula, you've got yourself a decent amount of money there, right? So as I said, I vendored 4 of them, which were complete trash. Like complete trash. I believe one of them was a bow and one of them was an axe, so already that's not too great. But here are some of the decent ones that I got. So for example, this one is 189 ES alongside double res of Cold and Lightning with a little bit of mana. Nothing crazy, not bad at all though. The only problem with it is that the colors are really bad. The colors of three blues and 3 reds is not very good. The thing is, you could simply go in to the mines and get the recipe for like at least 1 green socket or at least 1 blue socket, for example, and just use the couple required Val Orbs, which I believe is 4 Val Orbs, and then we would re-roll the sockets alongside the usage of your chromatic orbs, right? And then chances are, since it is a pure intelligence chess piece, if you're doing, let's say, 1 green, you're going to get 1 green and 5 blues, or 2 green and 5 blues, or 1 green, 1 red, whatever. You're going to get a combination of colors that are way more usable than 3 reds and 3 blues. So this is like the lesser version, but again, since you can color it well, it's still way better than Tabula. It's offering almost 200 ES, which, I mean, it's not an amazing amount of ES, but it's not bad at all. 9% spell damage and double res. Pretty solid chess piece. Now, the real kicker, though, from this 100 run, I would say, really lucky. It's not exactly something I would expect on a regular basis to happen, but sometimes you're going to get really lucky. And let me show you what you can expect to get, or what one of the things you could get if you do get insanely lucky. So 117 life, Tri-Resistance Golden Plate. An absolute beast of a chess piece. We're talking about over 110 life, over like triple res, triple different resistances of over 30 on each of them for a total of 90 res on a 6 link that happened to be 3 blues, 2 reds, and a green, which are not the best colors ever, but you could, again, just do at least one green socket. You'd probably end up with a bunch of reds and like 1 green, maybe 2 greens, and that would be perfect colors for, say, Cyclone, right? So that would be really, really good for Cyclone. An absolute insane chess piece, probably worth anywhere from 5 to even 10 exalts, depending on the meta. So this chess piece alone on the first day of the league would make me insanely rich. We're talking of 5 to 10 exalts on the first day of the league in one single drop. And the reality is that I've sold chess pieces of that caliber in the past very early in the league, and that's actually what they go for. They go for multiple exalts, because remember that a tabula is nothing but a white robe with absolutely nothing on it, but it does give you 6 links, and it's worth an X, or half an X at the end of the first day. So as soon as you're adding in more stats, you've got yourself some pretty damn good money there. Now you're also going to get 5 links, right? So for example, this one is Tri-Res with over 1,000 armor. There is no life here, which is a little bit of a shame, but that would still probably sell for a decent amount of chaos, maybe 5 to 10 chaos. It is 5 link. The colors are good, 4 reds and a green, and Tri-Res with 1,000 armor. That's a solid chess piece. It sucks that there's no life, but that's not the end of the world. In the end, that's still a very sellable chess piece. Another one here, 149 ES, a tiny bit of life, and double res. Colors are 3 blues and 2 greens. That's another sellable chess piece. We're talking maybe 5, 10, 20 chaos, whatever. That's the same for both of these. Whatever, pretty varying prices, but in the end, you have to remember that every one of those runs are costing you about 1 alchemy each, right? So 4 runs, or 3 to 4 runs, is going to be about a chaos. So if this chess piece is worth even, let's say, 10 chaos, it's still funded 30 to 40 runs by itself, let alone everything else, right? So you're also going to get some other kind of items. So here we have a helmet with like 97 life, double res, and a shit ton of accuracy. It's actually a pretty sick helmet. Also 460 armor. Very solid. It also happened to drop 4 linked. So this helmet, I would probably sell 10, 20, 30 chaos even. So very, very solid helmet. Would pay for the fragments that I use for almost the entirety of the test in one single item. Another little helmet, this one's nothing special, it's not even 4 link, but 120 life in one single res. But the reason why I picked it up is because it also has 38 intelligence, which is very, very useful for a strength and dexterity based helmet. Might sell for a handful of chaos, 3, 4, 5 chaos, something like that, nothing huge. Another one, Kind of the same situation here. This one does have strength, which adds more life, 110 life, 32 int, and 1 resistance. Unfortunately, though, it's not linked, so it makes it a little bit harder to sell it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of stuff sold for about 2-3 chaos, maybe even 5 chaos if you're lucky. Some gloves. If you look at these gloves, it's tier 1 physical damage to attacks, T2 life, alongside a little bit of lightning resistance and 10% attack speed. Decently solid pair of gloves, especially for offensive, say a build like Cyclone, for example, would love these gloves. The T1 fizz, the attack speed, and the life, very nice. They also happen to drop 4 linked and 2 blues and 2 reds, which is actually very solid colors for a pair of gloves. So that pair of gloves probably worth about 10 chaos, maybe even 15-20 chaos, depending on the meta. Another pair of gloves here, 60 life, double res, a bit of fizz damage, and a bit of dex. Not a very good pair of gloves, but you know what? 60 life, double res might sell for a few chaos if I'm lucky. A pair of comb roots happen to drop, so that's a few chaos there. Nothing crazy. Any unique ring on the first day of a league can be used towards the lore reeve recipe, so it's going to be worth about 1 to 2 chaos depending on the meta. I did get an interesting ring drop here. About like 60 life or so, 59 life, 8 all res, 24 res, and then the fire and cold, which brings the total to 80 total elemental resistances alongside 50 life. That ring would be worth about 10-15 chaos or something like that on the first day of a league, because people love rings with a lot of resistances, and 80 resistance on a ring at the beginning of the league is quite a lot. I dropped a 19 quality Val Ice Nova. Just picked it up, whatever. I didn't pick up really any of the Val gems, while in reality, you should probably pick up all the Val Righteous Fire. Those are going to sell for about a chaos each, because it's just a huge damage multiplier to like basically every single spell build ever. So tons and tons of people are going to be buying Val Righteous Fire. So buying that is probably a good idea. Picking up the Val Haste is also a good idea. Those are also going to sell for about a chaos. The maps that I spoke about, one thing that you guys are probably going to be interested in, within the 100 runs that I did, I only got 2 vanity cards, but those are going to sell for about 2.5 to 3 chaos each. We're talking about 5 to 6 chaos within those 2 cards. We dropped 10 pure chaos and, you know, a bunch of random stuff. Also, the Divine Orbs, not bad. Decent amount of jewelers here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So about 200-ish jewelers, which converts to 50 fusings, which is also not bad. Another 10-15 chaos there. 6 fusings, and the rest you guys can see by yourself. Now, the one last thing that I want to talk about in this video when it comes to farming these side areas that I realized a little bit later in my farming is that there was an absolute astronomical amount of jewelry dropping. So if you were to slap on a couple pieces of magic fine gear, so for example in your links, since you don't really need a whole lot of damage, what you could do is use something like item rarity support, right? Let's say you use a 4 link, and then your 4th link would be item rarity, and so that would give you, you know, an extra 50% rarity. You could also throw in some Orsays for another almost 50%, bringing your rarity to basically 100% more rarity. And I said that I was doing this test without rarity gear, and I realized about halfway, like, my filter is dinging very often. It just keeps going ding, 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 and it was dropping belts, amulets, and rings like crazy because of the modifiers on the maps. Remember, it's kind of like a map here, so you have modifiers which give you a lot of quantity. And those quantity modifiers basically end up giving you a lot of jewelry drops. So for chaos recipe farmers, it's actually pretty massive. You could probably be doing about a chaos recipe every other run or so. And if you're doing it unidentified, that's 2 chaos every 2 runs, which is the equivalent of basically 1 chaos per run. But the fragment alone is costing you a fraction of that chaos. So all in all, I think this is a viable league start strategy. We were actually discussing it in my Discord, and overall, this actually is probably what I'm going to start with myself. So I will be flipping some very low tier leveling uniques and stuff like that. And in the meanwhile, while I'm flipping, I will be running these sacrifice fragments until I acquire enough damage to be able to go directly to Adziri, and then farm Adziri until I have enough damage to go to Uber Adziri and snowball my way up. So hopefully this was an eye-opening video. Definitely not something you want to sleep on. These Valsite areas are actually pretty damn interesting. But before I go, and I forgot in my last video, I do want to say a huge thank you to my patrons. So Gikona, KFish, Casticus, Jake, Minicel, MrCoffee, and James, as well as everybody who do who do wish to remain anonymous, sorry, and anybody else who has supported me on the past, or the beautiful people who are part of our sub goal here on Twitch. If you guys want to see me, obviously I'm live on Twitch almost every day, so you can check out that if you want have any questions. Otherwise, ask them in the comment section, and that's going to be Matthew signing out. On the next one. Peace.